of Alex Kantrowitz of Big Technology. He's a CNBC contributor. It's good to have you here.
Great to be here.
So you heard all of our expert reporters put all of this into focus, exactly what matters most. Dan Ives of Wedbush says to expect strong results. Wall Street Journal today talks about a reckoning for the Mag 7 because market performance-wise, they're off to their worst start since 22.
I read that Wall Street Journal article, and what was really funny is after listing all the reasons not to buy big tech, at the end it says people don't want to buy bonds, they want equities, and they're probably going to go to big tech. So big tech does have a baseline level of support in this economy from investors, and I think all three reporters that were on right before me said the crucial thing, which is it's going to really depend on what the outlook is going to be for the next quarter. If there are prophecies of doom, you could see further pullback on these stocks.
What if there's prophecy of fog?
Fog leaves us where we are right now. But I think, look, if it's stay the course hasn't been bad because there's a story behind all of these companies. If it's just, well, we're not 100% sure what's going to happen, as opposed to, let's say Meta says we're seeing a pullback in advertising, or Amazon says we're seeing a pullback in the consumer, or Microsoft says we're seeing a pullback in data center. If it's just we don't know, I think that's actually a positive sign because you would expect that the negative things that we're going to see in the next quarter are already happening. So, uncertainty to me is fine right now with big tech.
Do you think that the capex spend is going to stay steady? That's the words you gave our production team today, steady. So we've heard some whispers and maybe some grumblings of going to pull back a little bit or speak to the broader economic narrative. What do you really expect?
I expect steady. Now, I spoke with Microsoft's AI CEO, Mustafa Suleyman, a couple weeks ago about those data center pullbacks.
Okay.
His explanation to me was basically that companies like Microsoft will option data centers all the time, and sometimes they don't pick up those options, and that becomes headlines of people saying they're pulling back. So there's a chance what's happening is the companies anticipated a lot of demand because of AI. They optioned everything. And now they're saying we're not going to pick up some of the options, and people are like, they don't want data centers anymore.
You feel like that was spin that you got, or was it the real deal?
Maybe somewhere in between.
Sometimes it is.
I mean,
Sometimes it is.
The AI models right now are performing better than they ever have. They're actually living up to the promise. Copilot, speaking about Microsoft, Copilot right now is becoming a real tool, not just this annoying thing that shows up in Outlook. I mean, companies everywhere are using it. They're actually getting real usage as opposed to just like another notification in your system that people count as a user. So I think that we're going to continue to see a ramp in usage. Now, remember, we go back to last year when there was all this hype, and in that moment, the idea was that everybody would use AI all the time right by now. That was always unrealistic. We've talked about it on the show that was unrealistic. However, this is ramping, it's moving, and maybe it's not this coming year, but in a couple of years, I expect that everybody's going to be using this stuff in the workplace.
Is there one of the four this week that you're watching more than any of the others?
Yeah, I mean, Apple, to me, is the really interesting one, in particular because we're going to see the impact of China demand. Now, of course, a lot of this happened in the second quarter, right? Our Liberation Day was in the beginning of April, so we're not going to see all the data necessarily on the beginning of the year. However, Chinese demand for Apple, extremely important, 17, 18% of total revenue. And there's two sides to these tariffs. One is the tariff on the exports, but the other thing is, what does it do to the markets that we are tariffing? Because if the tariffs end up hitting demand coming into Apple from China, and we know there's already been receding demand from China for Apple products, if we get commentary that is a big problem for Apple and they're going to have to disclose it, I think that's going to be a real issue for that company moving forward. That's one of the things with tariffs that you can't take back. A lot of this you can take back. With that, the cat might be out of the bag and there's no putting it back in.